auspicious day. A very auspicious day. It's going to be good. It is a good day. Very good day. Hey, what's going on, Almond Plays? Starting soon. A little bit of voiceover recording here. Got a couple of scripts that I'm actually going to do something I normally don't do, which is a completely cold read. So I haven't seen these scripts. I know the titles, but I haven't seen these scripts at all. So this is going to be interesting. You guys will watch how I actually have to do this when I have no clue what some of the pronunciations are going to be. And that should be it. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to the stream. We're going to be doing a little bit of simple history. So first, let me get it out. Congrats to Simple History. It's just like at 5:06 p.m. Eastern Time, it got 1 million subscriptions. So it's been awesome. I've been there since I think less than a few thousand, and it has grown just insanely great. Um, so congrats to Dan and myself and the rest of the team that produce a lot of this content. It's been an amazing time, especially for myself, learning so much things that I had no clue about. Like Mad Jack Thompson was just freaking awesome, especially the Japanese soldier who didn't surrender until, what was it, 1974. I knew nothing about that, and it was just fantastic to learn while doing stuff that I like voiceovers. So let's get into it. So let's go. 1 minute. Yep, Thompson or MP40? Oh, come on. Thompson. Come on, Thompson, man. MP40's good, but Thompson's a classic Tommy gun, man. So let's do it. So we're going to be doing, this is something that I normally do not do. I don't do cold reads. Like, I have not seen these scripts yet. But I can tell you one is on Australian penal colonies. Penal. And the other one is, I think it's strange deaths in history. So I got a bunch of new scripts that we're going to be doing. And I think we'll be able to do these two without going too crazy. So this whole stream probably won't take, I want to say maybe, I don't know, an hour. Let's see. So what do we got? Penal colonies. Let's do penal colonies first. Let's get this right in the middle here so you guys can both see what's going on. So you can see some frequency now. So let's start. So I have penal colonies, Australia. Let's name that. If I can spell Australia, that would be great too. And we're going to change our bit rate. And if I talk a lot of tech sometimes when it comes to doing voiceovers because I love to edit. I love to edit audio. So if anybody has any questions on, this is my live. So if anybody has any questions on what the hell is going on with Adobe Audition here, or in general audio questions, please don't, throw them out into, throw out. So Great Emu War. Yeah. Did I tell you about that? Did I record that one? I already have that. I already have that recorded, I think. That was a really interesting one. In fact, I'm going to be trying to do a puppet in Character Animator for that. An emu puppet. That's going to be this weekend, I think. That should be interesting. All right, so cold read. This is going to be an interesting. Actually, you know what? How about strange deaths in history first? Nah, let's do penal colonies. I like penal colonies. Just because it has the word penal in it. All right, so got the clicker. Let's record. Okay, my sound floor is a little bit. Yeah, there we go. My sound floor over here on the right-hand side. This little thing over here usually doesn't go too much higher than negative 57 dB in this studio. So it should be pretty quiet, but Osborne is a hero, but Wojtek is a legend. Wojtek is a legend. That Wojtek story was awesome. Smoking cigarettes. All right, let's get rid of this and start again. All right, here we go. You guys are going to see how I do this cold. All right. Penal colonies, Australia. Colonial America had been a destination for Britain's criminals for a while, but the American War of Independence in 1776 forced Britain to think of new places to export its convicts to protect British society. In the meantime, criminals were imprisoned domestically in Britain, doing hard labor in prisons or in chains from moored prison ships known as hulks. Overcrowding of prisons led the British Parliament to consider Australia as the place to send its convicts. They would establish New South Wales as a penal colony on land that had been claimed for Britain in 1770. Unlike America, the whole continent was intended to be colonized along these lines. Crimes during this time included pickpocketing, stealing goods valued at 5 shillings or more, burglary, forging, and rioting. Even pinching a handkerchief was deemed a transportable offense. The offer was exile to a penal colony. The offer was exile to a penal colony or death. The first fleet arrived at Botany Bay, New South Wales, Australia, on January 20th, 1788, carrying over 700 convicts as well as their families, and over 500 Marines and officers. I absolutely love that Dan, he's the creator of Simple History, he wrote January 20th, 1788, and he normally does the British, because he's British, he normally does the British way. He'll go the 20th of January. He actually wrote it the American way, which is kind of funny, actually. Inside joke. Inside joke. All right. The penal colony was then established at Port Jackson at Sydney Cove. I don't like that read. The penal colony was established... I will say get that word then, too. The penal colony was then established at Port Jackson at Sydney Cove. More penal colonies were established afterwards across Australia in the 19th century. Life in the penal colony. Work. Once the convicts arrived, the governor separated and sorted them into gangs based on their skills. Skilled convicts such as carpenters, blacksmiths, or stonemasons could be used for government works programs. I don't like that. That's a tough sentence. Holy cow, that's a long sentence. All right. Skilled convicts, such as carpenters, blacksmiths, or stonemasons, could be used for government works programs, such as building roads, bridges, courthouses, hospitals, or working on government farms. That sentence is an example of why being a professional voice actor, you need to have complete control of your diaphragm so you have no breaths in between something like that. Oh, you can feel my stomach is contracting trying to get the last of that part of that sentence out. All right. Unskilled convicts would be assigned to laboring work. Unskilled convicts would be assigned to laboring work such as gathering and burning seashells to create lime mortar or breaking rocks into gravel for the construction projects. Free settlers, people who actually, where am I saying actually? Free settlers, people who voluntarily settled in Australia, and convicts that had done their time, also picked such convicts. What? Okay, wait a minute, I have to read that sentence. That's a tough sentence, holy moly. Also picked such convicts they wanted to work for. They wanted to work for them as servants. All right, I have to, look at that. For settlers, people who voluntarily settled in Australia, and convicts that had done their time also picked such convicts they wanted to work for them as servants. Holy moly, I think there's missing a comma in there. All right. Free settlers, people who voluntarily settled in Australia, and convicts that had done their time also picked such convicts they wanted to work for them as servants. Women made up 15% of the convict population and were employed as domestic servants to the officers, or worked in the female factories where they made clothes and wash tubs. Many women married quickly as male free settlers were often looking for a wife. Clothing. At first, convicts wore their own clothing, but as more free settlers started to arrive, there was a necessity for a uniform to distinguish the innocent from convicts. From the early 1800s, a partly colored uniform was... Party or partly? From the early 1800s, I'm going to say party, because I don't know what party is. Unless that's like jesters. All right. From the early 1800s, a party-colored uniform was introduced. This yellow and black uniform resembled the costumes worn by court jesters in the medieval period, which was designed to humiliate the convicts. The broad arrows showed that the clothing and the convict was government property. The convict punishments. Discipline was harshly enforced by the military guards. Flogging, heavy ankle irons or chains, the treadmill, and solitary confinement in dark, dumb cells all served as punishments for prisoners who were lazy or unruly at their job. Convicts that continued to cause problems were sent to more remote penal colonies or prisons on Norfolk Island, Port Macquarie. Oh my goodness. Macquarie. Macquarie? Port Macquarie and Moreton Bay. Okay, so this is where I pause my thing, and now we're going to go over to Google, and we're going to try to find Port Macquarie. I'm assuming it's Macquarie, but now I need to know what that is. Port Macquarie. Let's see if there's a video for it. What is it like to live in? Let's see. Probably not going to have a voiceover.
For someone who is coming overseas to Port Macquarie, I would describe
Port Macquarie. Port Macquarie. So it is Port Macquarie. So I'm going to go back and listen. All right, I'm going to look at. I'm going to look back here. Can I show my screen? Can you not see my screen on there? You should be able to. I'm looking at my OBS here, and I do have. Well, I have a split screen at the moment, but yeah, should be able to see. Should be able to see most of this stuff going. But let me go back here and see. Convicts that continued to cause problems were sent to more remote penal colonies or prisons in Norfolk Island, Port Macquarie. I'm going to do that whole entire thing over again. Convicts that continued to cause problems were sent to more remote penal colonies or prisons in Norfolk Island, Port Macquarie, and Moreton Bay. For women, punishments included having their heads shaved or placed in solitary confinement. Escape attempts. Convicts tried to escape, but the wilderness of the Australian continent and starvation acted as a deterrent. The Aboriginal people had lived in Australia for 60,000 years before the arrival of Europeans. Desperate convict escapees took to stealing from them, and many fights occurred. Ticket of leave. Prison time for convicts could range from 7 years to life. Convicts who worked hard would obtain a ticket of leave or a pardon. Convicts who worked hard would obtain a ticket of leave or a pardon. And these were frequently granted after 4 years, or those with a 7-year sentence. And these were frequently granted after 4 years for those with a 7-year sentence. Once they had a ticket of leave, they could work for themselves and own property. The types of pardon also determined whether they were allowed to stay in Australia or travel anywhere in the world. Few convicts actually returned to England because they couldn't afford the transportation back. From 1788 to 1868, it is estimated that around 165,000 convicts were transported by the British government to various penal colonies in Australia. And that's it. I'm happy with that. But first, we have to record room tone. My favorite thing in the world, room tone. Okay, we're going to try to get dead quiet here because I think a giant truck is outside my studio. All right, that works for me. I got some low hum in there. That must be something going on outside. Normally I don't have that much hum. All right, so that was just pretty much a completely naked read, cold read of that script, which I think we got pretty good. There weren't too many pronunciations I had to worry about, so yeah, that's good. You guys are going to see how I do. All right, so, and we're not going to do the editing of this one. The editing process takes me, to edit this down would take me probably about, let's see, what is this, about 7 minutes? Probably about 30 minutes or so to edit it down. Then I apply all my effects and stuff. I mean, we can do that if you guys want to see it. But what are we in? 20 minutes in, and we've got one script recorded. We're going to save this, and I'm going to record that second script. I might even do 3 because I got 3 to record today. So, Australia, let's do a new one. You guys are going to see some simple history stuff in there. Look at all those folders. All those recent, that's all just, I think, from 2017, there might be some 2017, 2018 in there. Penal colonies. All right. So now we got a folder for penal colonies. And this is a raw wave file, uncompressed. I always save uncompressed. And then I'll come back and I will actually mix it down to an MP3 for the most part. All right, so this one. Strange deaths in history. Okay, so I believe Strange Deaths in History is the new one. Strange Deaths in History. Yes, it is. All right, so guys, thank you for hanging in there with me. I know this can be boring listening to me talk. I can't put background music on it either, which sucks. But oh well. We'll keep going. All right, so I'm going to briefly scan through this. Toronto Dominion Center. Gary Hoy. Always names. David Grundman. Oh my God. See, look at this. I can't even say that. Do I have any, Sachochi? Shuchochi? Can't tell if he's Japanese. Let's see. Let's, copy. Let's copy that and go over to Google and see what Google says. Chochi. Oh, maybe he got the name wrong. Shuchochi. Shuhoki. That's an interesting one. That is an interesting one. 1997, huh? Arizona. So maybe you got the name wrong. It has happened. Quick little spelling. Georgy Markov. I know that one. I know that one well. Markov. Franz Reichelt. Let's go to German. Let's go to Google Translate, since I've been getting shit from people on in comments about my German pronunciations, and I've been trying to do better. Google Translate. Let's see what it says.
Franz Reichelt.
Reichelt. I'm not going to sound like a woman. How come I have a woman, by the way? That's weird. Can I have a guy? I like to listen to the guy. Oh well.
Franz Reichelt.
Okay, Reichelt. I think we'll get that one. So, Franz Reichelt. All right, so this is going to be a good one. Death by cactus. I don't even want to know what that is. Is that what that is? Death by cactus? Oh my God. 1982? Oof. All right, so let's go back over here and we'll start recording. Death by cactus. That's going to be good. This one I should have a little bit of a different. Maybe I'll have a little bit of a different tone with this one. A little bit more animated, only because I think this one's kind of, I won't say silly, but kind of lighthearted, since we're talking about strange deaths. So yeah, let's keep it going. Let me make sure I'm not. All right, yeah, I am recording. Let me go back and do this. You should hear some of my outtakes where I'm swearing all the time. It's not good. I shouldn't do that. Okay. Strange deaths in history. The 20th century. History has shown some strange deaths. Let's look at some of the most unfortunate and bizarre deaths from the 20th century. Window pane. 1993. Canadian lawyer Gary Hoy was a 38-year-old lawyer who liked to perform a stunt show. Canadian lawyer Gary Hoy was a 38-year-old lawyer who liked to perform a stunt showing how strong and safe the window panes were by throwing himself against them. He did this demonstration frequently and bounced harmlessly back every time. On July 9th, 1993, on the 24th floor of the Toronto Dominion Center, Hoy was proving to a group of law students how unbreakable the glass windows were. He barged into the windows as usual and bounced back, then charged at them a second time. The window didn't shatter, but it popped off the frame and Hoy plunged 300 feet to his death. He was described by the legal firm as one of the best and brightest. Hang on. He was described by the legal firm as one of their best. He was described by their. There? It should be there? Nah. He was described by the legal firm as one of the best and brightest. Ooh, that's a dumb way to go. That's like Darwin Award level. All right. Death by cactus. I got to do something different. I can't just read that one. Death by cactus. 1982. In 1982, friends David Grundman and James Joseph Suchoki. I have to get that name right before I start this. I have to. All right, I'm going to pause that there. I have to get that name right. Shuchochi. I want to say Shuchochi. Shuhaki. All right, this is what we're going to do. I have no idea what that is. 1982. David Grundman. So they have Suchochi here. I don't know what that is, but let's put it in English and Google Translate and see what happens. English.
James Joseph Suchochi.
Chachi. We're gonna say Shuchachi, but we're gonna see what happens. 1982. Friends David Grundman. All right, go back. In 1982, friends David Grundman and James Joseph Suchochi went wandering around Lake Pleasant, Arizona, and to do some target practice with their shotguns. They decided to fire a small saguaro. I think that's a saguaro cactus, if I remember correctly. I think it's a saguaro. I remember listening to Art Bell. Late night, Art Bell. Saguaro cactus. Let's go to translate again, because we're going to find out if it's saguaro. I think it's saguaro. Whoops. Yeah. Let's do the whole thing. Cactus. No, not from German. That should be English because, you know, English. What?
Saguaro cactus.
Saguaro.
Saguaro cactus.
I thought it was saguaro. Saguaro. I think that's the American way of saying it. All right, let's go back. Let's delete all that crap that I had in there since that whole beginning. All right. 1982, friends David Grundman. They decided to fire at a small cigar. I'm going to say saguaro. I'm pretty sure it's saguaro. We'll see. They decided to fire at a small saguaro. I keep wanting to say cactus. They decided to fire at a small saguaro, a type of tall cactus, blasting it into pieces. Ad-lib. Needing a bigger challenge, Grundman then targeted. Needing a bigger challenge, Grundman then targeted a 26-foot tall saguaro, shooting it several times in the trunk. A 4-foot arm of the cactus that was weakened by the blast fell on Grundman, crushing him to death. Crushing him to death. Third one. Crushed by a cactus. Holy crap. All right. And by the way, hello to everybody on the stream. Thank you for being patient with me learning how to read for the first time. And we'll see what we can do here. I don't even want to read this one. Poison umbrella. My God. All right. Poison umbrella, 1978. A Bulgarian dissident, Georgy Markov, was assassinated by an umbrella during the Cold War. He had made an enemy of the Bulgarian communist regime, not only by defecting to the West, but also because he criticized the communist government in his writings. In 1978, he was waiting at the bus stop in London where he worked, when he felt a pain in his leg. He said that he noticed a man picking up an umbrella off the ground, who then hurried to a taxi across the road. The umbrella had been specifically The umbrella had been a specifically designed weapon that shot a ricin-filled pellet into the leg of Markov, which poisoned him. Markov died a few days later. The assassin was connected to the KGB and the Bulgarian secret police. Parachute suit, 1912. An Australian-born tailor named Franz Reichelt invented a parachute suit. He invented it to save aviators' lives in their flying machines. He invented it to save aviators' lives if their flying machines were about to crash. His silk parachute coat was activated by extending the arms, which would deploy the parachute, allowing the aviator to glide to safety. Tests with dummies a year before had proven inconclusive. In 1912, he finally got permission to demonstrate his invention by jumping off the Eiffel Tower himself. Reichelt went to the first deck of the Eiffel Tower, 187 feet above ground, wearing the parachute suit in front of a giant crowd. He made the jump, and the suit failed, causing him to fall to his death. What death did you find the most strange? Leave a comment below. What death did you find the most strange? Leave a comment below. That is it. So, let's get room tone. Yeah, that's more like it. For some reason there must have been something outside reverberating throughout the house for my room tone. All right, that was it. So that was 2. We might do 3. Anybody in the live stream chat on YouTube, if you guys want to see a third one, because we're only, 31 minutes in? Let me know. I'm going to do some basic cleanliness, some cleaning of these audio files quickly. And we're going to go through, and I might want to do a third one. I don't know if you guys want to see a third one. Penal colonies. Oh, no, I can't say penis colonies. So let me back out here. So we have penal colonies. All right, so we're going to do some quick edits. On land that had been claimed, on land. You guys can see how my clicker makes life a whole hell of a lot easier with editing. You can go right to an edit. The offer was the offer. Oh, I know I'm taking out those two. A joke. Inside that Dan, he's the creator. Oh, yeah, I got my whole spiel about that. Carrying over 700 convicts, as well as their families, and over 500 Marines and officers. I absolutely love. He wrote January 20. He normally does the American way. Inside joke. Dan, I absolutely. Okay, so all of that's coming out. Joke. All right. I don't want to leave that on the final audio. The penal colony was. I will say, get that word then. The penal colony. I don't need any of that. The penal colony was then established at Port Jackson at Sydney Cove. More penal colonies were established. Oops. Let me refresh that. More penal colonies were established afterwards across Australia. Life in the penal colony. Work. This is just some basic editing here. Skilled convicts such. Oh, I don't like that. That's a tough sentence. Holy cow, that's a long sentence. Skilled convicts such. Well, that damn long sentence with the skilled convicts. Let's see if I can hear myself. Carpenters, blacksmiths, or stonemasons could be used for government works programs such as building roads, bridges, courthouses, hospitals, or working on government farms. Yeah, a little strain. That sentence is back there. You need to have. Okay. Oh, you can feel. Unskilled That's okay. We're going to get rid of some of those breaths in there. Unskilled. Don't need that. Free settlers. Time. Also. Oh, yeah, that's right. Free settlers. Look at that. Nice how easy, fast editing this is, huh? Free settlers. People who volunteer. Women made up 15% of the convict population, and many women married quickly. Many women married quickly, as male free settlers were often looking for a wife. Clothing. At first, convicts wore their So I'm just doing a rough edit, in case anybody's curious, because it's much easier to do this. So all the pacing and the timing, I have a very specific sort of way that I do pacing. So like from chapter or bullet point titles. Clothing are typically about half a second. So I'll leave 2 seconds between the end of a sentence. For a wife. Clothing. And then about a half a second between the title and actually when the breath comes in. So, and I measure that out, but I don't do that during this first part. A partly colored uniform was from the early 1800s. At first, convicts wore their own clothing, but as more free from the early 1800s. From the early 1800s, a party colored uniform was introduced. The broad arrows showed that the clothing and the convict punishments. Convict punishments. Discipline was harshly enforced by the military guards. Flogging, heavy ankle irons or chains, the treadmill, and solitary confinement in dark, dumb cells all served as punishments for prisoners who were lazy or unruly at their job. Convicts that continued to cause problems were heavy ankle irons, flogging, discipline, convict punishments. Convicts that continue. Why did I have a click there? I just click at random? Convicts that continued to cause problems were sent to more remote penal colonies or prisons in Norfolk Island, Port Macquarie, and Moreton Bay. For women, punishments included having their heads shaved or placed in solitary confinement. Escape attempts. Convicts tried to escape, but the wilderness of the Australian continent and starvation acted as a deterrent. The Aboriginal people had lived in Australia for 60,000 years before the arrival of Europeans. Desperate convict escapees took to stealing from them, and many fights occurred. Ticket of leave. Prison time for convicts could range from 7 years to life. Convicts who worked tempo editing. I'm sorry, I can't help myself but do tempo editing right off. Or a pardon. Convicts who worked hard would obtain a ticket of leave or a pardon. And these were frequently granted after 4 years leave or a pardon. And these were frequently granted after 4 years or those with a 7-year sentence. And these were ticket of leave or convicts who worked hard would obtain a ticket of leave or a pardon. And these were frequently granted after 4 years for those with a 7-year sentence. Holy moly, that's a long pause. What did I do there? Was I just daydreaming? Was I daydreaming during that? Once they had a ticket of leave, they would work for them. Once they had a ticket of leave, they could work for themselves and own property. A lot of mouth noise, Chris. And own property. Coffee and soda before you record work stuff. For themselves and own property. The types of pardon also determined whether they were allowed to stay in Australia or travel anywhere in the world. Few convicts actually returned to England because they couldn't afford the transportation back. From 1788 to 1868, it is estimated that around 165,000 convicts were transported by the British government to various penal colonies in Australia. Boom. That's it. So that is, and then we go back and look for spikes. Work. I guess we can, let's reduce that by 3. Women. I reduce these big spikes, usually by 3 decibels, just to get everything more in line. So now we have a raw track. That is a completely raw track. And what are we going to do? We're going to do, well, first, the most important thing, save as raw. Raw file. Now I got a raw. Now I have the raw, the first take. Now I have a raw audio file. I call basically quick edited with no clicks raw, even though it's technically not raw. But first thing, we are going to capture a noise print. So background noise, that's why I take room tone. So all of that fuzz in there, I capture a noise print in Adobe Audition. I like to use their noise reduction. I have a few different noise reduction software, but this one has been just, I've got it the way I want it. It's just, it does a good job of getting out. I don't have a lot of background noise. My noise floor is negative 60 dB, so it's pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet. This will take a few seconds. Boom. So you can see a lot of that noise has been reduced, except there's some crap down here, but we're going to get rid of that with the dynamics process. I should favorite this dynamics process since I always use it. The new dynamics plugin that Adobe put in Audition in this version is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. One easy way of knowing when or how to set, actually we can do this. Let's set the whole entire thing. You take basically an amplitude statistic of a selection, and we're going to scan that, and we can see what our peak amplitude, what our true peak amplitude, our maximum, all this fun stuff. So what I'm looking for here is my true peak amplitude. So I'm looking for anything pretty much, well, you can see it's already quiet. I want to take out everything below negative 65 decibels. I just want to, instead of going in there and selecting thing, and I have a hotkey for this, insert silence. And you can see there the purple is gone. There's an automated way so I can take out a lot of this junk, and that's through the dynamics. And I'll show you here. I've shown this before on a few streams. When you zoom in into preview mode, you can see here, if I can get them to line up. Oh, I don't think I'll be able to get them to line up, will I? Let me do this. All right, let me go zoom in on this, and you can see there. Zoom in on that. You can see this is what it's going to look like. So I can adjust this. So pretty much, if I want to get rid of everything below 60, you're going to see little spikes. That spike has an average RMS of higher than 60 decibels, so it doesn't take it out. But if I lower this down to, let's say, 55, let's try 55. 55, it should get rid of it. Boom. So let's apply that. And that's an easy way, and it doesn't affect any of the other audio except for where it's below 55. And if I'm speaking, it's definitely higher than 55. So that pretty much gave us a nice clean track except for a lot of this junk. That's the stuff that takes a while, where I'll go in and auto heal certain selections, or I have a declick process, which automatically runs. This is going to take a while. So actually, I can grab my beverage that I shouldn't be drinking when you're doing voiceovers. Remember that, unless you have a dry sounding, scratchy voice like mine. Little soda. Oh, and macadamia nuts. Don't eat macadamia nuts. Hold on, we're going to eat some macadamia nuts since I've already recorded myself. Don't eat macadamia nuts. I can't open it. Don't eat macadamia nuts when you're recording voiceovers. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. They get stuck in there. Causes problems. But I can't not eat macadamia nuts. It's awesome. Oh, it's awesome on my diet. Nice high fat. I'm on a high fat diet, so it's awesome. Yeah, I know, weird. It's a high-fat diet. What the hell's up with that? All right, so declick process. There's probably still going to be some mouth noise in there because every time I say the letter L, I get a mouth noise. All right, so we've got a pretty even track. So I haven't even done anything yet to it, and we're going to go in and put my process. So I have an editing or an effects process, an effects chain here, which is basically an EQ. Ozone 8 is a fantastic software where I have some very subtle mastering with some EQ. I also have a vintage EQ that's put on there with a few things. You can see here another compressor, tapes. Right? So that's basically, this is the sound that I have. Mastering is a high-end, sparkly, fun stuff. FFT filter is basically an MP3 emulator where I cut off everything below 80 hertz in a logarithmic fashion. basically a slope. You can see by the time it gets down to right about there, which is what, 50 hertz, it's reduced it by 30 decibels. So it becomes, I don't say inaudible, but my voice has a lot of deep voice, and I don't need extra deep stuff in there muddying it up. Besides, I've found that, I think I've mentioned this on a few other streams. I have no idea what device people are listening to this on. Is it monitors, studio monitors? Is it little cheapy earbuds like I listen to? Like I have these. These are Bear Dynamic, right? DTS 770 Pro. They're 80 ohm version. Absolute. If you don't have monitors, studio monitors, this is the next best thing. I don't like to listen. I don't like to master my audio with them. Unless it's for like an audiobook or a commercial or like a game trailer or a movie trailer or whatever, or some other promo. I will listen to it on that. On these, I want what people are listening to Simple History on, which is probably a lot more laptops and telephones, cell phones, than actual, good computer speakers. I'm sure there's a lot of gamers who listen to Simple History, because I'm a gamer, and they have pretty good audio, but I have to assume that they're listening to it on crap. So the reason I do that is to remove a lot of the low-end kind of crap out of my voice, and also get rid of a lot of the high-end hiss that my microphone picks up. So I add it back in with that mastering, but for the most part, this seems to be pretty good. People have said, yeah, this sounds clear, sounds loud, which is good, but you'll see that process. And a hard limiter with a little bit of boost gain, so I cut everything off above a certain amount. I actually re-limit after this process, because I want to see how my performance was. So I'll apply this. This is going to take another minute. Even though I got a pretty, I don't want to say a beast of a machine, but I got a pretty good setup, and it takes a good minute for it to chew through this. But the whole hard limiting part, is I try not to. I want a dynamic mix. I want a dynamic performance where there's quiet, and sometimes I'll have proximity effect in the microphone, but I want a dynamic recording that is not chopped. Even though I know loudness sometimes makes it sound better, better. Loudness is sort of interpreted by the brain as being better, and that's not always the case. So with my type of voice, deeper and, kind of bassy, with a little bit of mouth noise mixed in sometimes, having it be louder isn't necessarily better. Besides, I over and under emphasize words at random, it seems. Sometimes I just enunciate a word completely out of nowhere. All right, so you can see what it did there. So that process gives me a track that is probably normalized. Well, let's find out. Let's scan it, find out. So here it is. So the true peak amplitude, -3. I do not usually like to have it above -3, but it depends on the story. It depends on the script, if it's an energetic script. Penal colonies, Australia. Penal colonies. Now, the bass is really crappy on these. Colonial America had been a destination for Britain's criminals for a while, but I'm going to do one other thing here too. I'm going to take out. I noticed that my declick, I should have run it at this point. It doesn't really matter when you run it, but I like to amplify and do all my funky stuff to it, and then run the declick process. Only because you can run it as many times as you want, but it's good to run it after you amplify everything, because at that point I've amplified. If I run it first and then run it again, it's fine. But those mouth noise is interesting. I should do an episode on that mouth noise, and then vocal fry and a whole bunch of other interesting vocal pains in the ass to fix. Because I have an issue when I say E. When I say army. Army seems to it doesn't like to go in my throat. All right, so let's go back. Do a full editing on this thing. Penal colonies. So I can already hear. So penal. It didn't take penal. It didn't take penal colonies. Penal colonies. Australia. So colonies. Australia.
Take out the first breath.
Colonial America had been a destination for Britain's criminals for a while.
You can hear a lot of mouth noise there. Yeah, don't eat macadamia nuts and drink soda before you record.
But the American War of Independence in 1776 forced Britain to think of new.
I don't need that breath in there.
Forced Britain to think of new places to export its convicts. To protect British.
Don't need that.
To protect British society. In the meantime, criminals were imprisoned.
So you're going to see. I'm going to reduce.
In the meantime, criminals were imprisoned domestically in Britain, doing hard.
Don't think I need that.
Doing hard.
I've got a little.
Doing hard labor in prisons or in chains from moored prison ships.
Listening to this on headphones, you hear every little pop
moored prison ships known as hulks.
Yeah.
Ships known as hulks.
Hulks is a little too loud, don't you think? I think so.
Known as hulks.
Yeah, let's reduce that.
Overcrowding.
Reduce that.
Overcrowding of prisons led the British Parliament to consider Australia as the place to send its convicts. They would establish.
Let's get rid of that.
Its convicts. They would establish New South Wales.
Another thing we'll talk about is editing. The tempo of this. We're talking about penal colonies. How much time in between sentences should there be? And that's up to the editor. It's up to the director. It's up to the talent. Whoever's doing the mixing.
Overcrowding of prisons. They would establish.
I speak at about 120 to 135 words per minute, typically.
They would establish New South Wales as a penal colony.
Little plosive action there.
As a penal colony on land that had been claimed for.
Oh yeah, so there's a little splice we're going to do.
As a penal colony on land that had been claimed for Britain in 1770. Unlike America.
Let's reduce that. I'll keep the breath.
Unlike America, the whole continent was intended to be colonized along these lines. Crimes during this time.
Shorten that up. Shorten that up and soften it slightly.
Crimes during this time.
Crimes is really loud there.
Crimes during this time included pickpocketing, stealing goods valued at 5 shillings or more, burglary, forging, and rioting. So
let's listen to the tempo. There's a good exercise in tempo.
Stealing goods valued at 5 shillings or more, burglary.
I also got a little bit of a low end there.
More, burglary, forging, and rioting. Even pinching a handkerchief was deemed a transportable.
We got
Deemed
a little pop in there. You can see it right there. Let's fade out right there. Also, like my throat didn't want to. That's a weird sound. Let's do this. Let's see what happens if I do that.
Deemed a transportable offense.
That works. Don't know what that is. Look at this. Weird spike out of nowhere.
Transportable offense. The offer was exile to a penal colony. Or death. The offer. Even pinching a handkerchief was deemed a transportable offense. The offer was exile to a penal colony or death. The first fleet arrived at Botany Bay.
Wait, did I say Botany Bay? Is it really Botany Bay from like Star Trek, the Botany Bay? It can't be. It can't be. It can't be. Strange deaths. No. What did I do? Did I do it wrong? Or did I completely screw that up? Wait, did I put it in here? Untitled document? Is it an untitled document? No, it's not. All right, let me go back. Don't want to show you guys any secret leak information. Let me go back here. Penal colony. Is it Botany Bay? It is Botany Bay. Okay, I guess it is the Botany Bay. Botany Bay. Check off. All right. Saguaro. Saguaro cactus. All right, let's show this back. All right, let's go back. The first fleet arrived at Botany Bay, New South Wales, Australia, on January 20th, 1780. January 20th. By the way, when you see me doing this and it sort of goes down, I'm not de-amplifying. I'm actually fading in because it's a transient, and transients usually are k, t, p, even though it's a plosive. And I'm fading on January to make them less harsh. 20th, 1788, carrying over 8. And we don't need 8, carrying over 700 convicts as well as their families, and over trying to make it easier, and over 500 Marines and officers. The penal colony was a little bit of clicking in there. Let's see what we got. Can you be my storybook reader when I fall asleep? Oh, wait a minute. So let me read the first one. Dragon User, man, welcome to the stream. I'm glad I'm on YouTube this early to watch this stream. It's 6 a.m. Holy hell, man. Where are you? Wait, 6 a.m. Hold on, wait a minute. It's 6 a.m. 12 hours ahead? What are you, in Japan? 12 hours ahead. Or yeah, or are you behind me? Oh, because it's 6:21 p.m. here. And yes, can I be your storybook reader when I fall asleep? It depends on when you fall asleep. People have asked me many, many times to do an audiobook. I kind of want to, but that's a lot of work for me. A lot of editing. You can see what it takes to just freaking edit. How long is this thing? 4 minutes and 20 seconds. 4:20, yo. It takes a while to edit a lot of this stuff. So doing a Philippines, holy crap, Philippines. Well, I appreciate you hanging out on the stream. By the way, I do appreciate it. And good morning in the Philippines. I'm glad to have you. The first fleet arrived at carrying over 700 convicts as well as their families, and over 500 Marines and officers. The penal colony was then established. You're gonna just watch me do boring editing. Colony was then established at Port Jackson at Sydney Cove. Cove. More penal colonies were established. 12, my guy. 12 o'clock. Okay. More penal colonies were established afterwards across Australia in the 19th century. Life in the penal colony. Work. So life in the penal colony. A little bit of plosive there. Penal colony. So I might do something that only you guys on the stream might ever notice during the actual airing or the episode that he puts live on YouTube. I might normally, okay, so what you're looking at now is a mono track. This is just a center. You have surround sound and you have a center speaker. This audio will only come through the center speaker. There's nothing left, nothing right. It's completely mono, right? Well, if you do have just stereo, you will hear it because it's the exact same audio in both the left and the right ears. What I used to do this just for some little fun. If you guys are wearing headphones now, you're going to get ready for a little chorus and a little stereo separation. It makes the audio sort of stand out a little bit. You guys are going to hear that. How long do I got? I say, well, I'm halfway done. You guys are going to hear that at the end. I'm going to apply a chorus, and I'm going to apply some harmony to it and a very subtle widener. And you guys are going to hear what that actually does. Life in the penal colony. Work. Too much time. Once the convicts arrived, the governor separated and sorted them into gangs based on their skills. Skilled convicts such as little mouth clicks. Convicts such as I missed him. There he is right there. Convicts such as carpenters, blacksmiths, or stonemasons could be used for government works programs. Skilled convicts such as carpenters, blacksmiths, or stonemasons could be used for government. Oh, look at that. See, this is why I edit. Skilled convicts such as I forgot to click in there, and I had a better take. All right, I'll get rid of that. Skilled convicts such as carpenters, blacksmiths, or stonemasons could be used for government works programs such as building roads, bridges, courthouses, hospitals. All right, Tempo is important here. Courthouse. Let's do works programs, such as building roads, bridges, courthouses, hospitals, or working on government farms. So you're going to hear F saying farms. Sometimes when my teeth hit my upper lip, when you say the letter F, you get a little sound. You get a tone, like a little whistle sound. And I can hear it. Most people can't. Or working on government farms. Farms. You'll hear like that little sound that your air will make coming between your teeth and your gums, like you're whistling. That's right here. That's right here. You can even see it. It's like it's got octaves. You can see there's a note here, there's an octave here, harmonic here, harmonic here. If I highlight that and just loop it. Actually, here, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's normalize that. See what happens. Yeah, piss everybody off on the stream. Farm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert silence right there, and that should cut down. Government farms. Yeah. On government farms. Unskilled convicts. Unskilled convicts would be assigned to laboring work such as gathering and burning seashells to create lime mortar or breaking rocks into gravel for the construction projects. Long pause. Free settlers, people who voluntarily settled in Australia. So we're going to close that projects. Free settlers, people who voluntarily settled in Australia, and convicts that had done their time. Also, do I need that? That's the thing. Also picked such free settlers. Do I need a breath or not? Free settlers, people who voluntarily. A little bit of a plosive there. Free settlers, people who voluntarily settled in Australia, and convicts that had done their time, also picked such convicts. Yeah, that breath works. So picked such convicts they wanted to work for them as servants. All right. Women made up 15%. Let's edit that a little. Women made up 15% of the convict population and were employed as domestic servants to the officers, or worked in. Oh, I got to click in my breath. The rare breath click. Or worked in the female factories where they made clothes. And oh, I said clothes. Normally I say clothes, like C-L-O-S-E. Factories where they made clothes and wash tubs. It's almost as if I've read that word before. Many women married tubs. Too much pause. Many women married quickly, as male free settlers were often looking for a wife. Clothing. Let's increase that. Were often looking for a wife. Clothing. So a little bit sharp. Clothing. At first, convicts wore their own clothing. Really? At first, convicts wore their own clothing, but as more free settlers started to arrive, there was a necessity for reduce that amplitude. There was a necessity for a uniform to distinguish the innocent from convicts. So we're almost convicts. From the early 1800s, a party color. Okay, I think I'm going to keep that breath. From convicts. From the early Yep, but we're going to reduce it in amplitude a couple. From the early 1800s, a party-colored uniform was party-colored uniform was introduced. This yellow and black uniform. A little bit of mouth noise in there. You can see them little fuzzy buzzes, fuzz balls, fuzz noise. This yellow and black uniform resemble the costumes. Another big one right there. Resemble the costumes worn by court jesters in the medieval period, which was designed to humiliate the convicts. I'm going to leave that sharp in there. The broad arrows showed that the Boy, I'm obsessive. This is like obsessive compulsive. Arrows showed that the clothing and the convict was government. So that's an actual syllable right there that my mouth didn't want to say. Apparently, convict was government property. We'll leave it alone. Property. Convict punishment. Convict punishments. Discipline was harsh. All right, increase that slightly. Discipline was harshly enforced by the military guards. Flogging No, no breath there. Flogging, heavy ankle irons or chains. Little bit of, or chains. Well, this must be boring for you guys. Have I ever heard of Dancing Plague of 1518? I think I have heard of that. I'm glad you mentioned that because, yeah, I've been listening to, I've been searching for some interesting topics to suggest up the food chain. One of them was, I think that was one of them. One of them was the, what was that? Somebody sent me an email on it. Let me go back. Let me get up to an email account here. Oh my God, I got too much stuff. Too many tabs open. Holy moly. All right, so let's do this. Let's find what it was. Exercise Tiger or Operation Tiger. Took place in April 1944 on Slapton Sands in Devon. Was the code name for a one in a series of large-scale rehearsals for the D-Day invasion of Normandy. Coordination and communication problems resulted in friendly fire deaths during the exercise, and an Allied convoy positioning itself for the landing was attacked by E-boats of Nazi Germany's Kriegsmarine, resulting in the deaths of at least 749 American servicemen. This was all before D-Day. Because of the impending invasion of Normandy, the incident was under the strictest secrecy at the time, and was only nominally reported afterwards. So that was somebody had suggested that. And it sounded like a great thing to do, but we were a little too late. We were a little too late to get it out before D-Day, or the I think it was June 6th, D-Day anniversary. But that Dancing Plague, yeah, I believe I have. I remember there's also one, I think, laughing sickness or laughing plague that happened, or I think it was in the 1700s, I think, where people were dying from laughing so much. Heavy ankle irons or chains, the treadmill, and solitary confinement. So really high frequency noise there. Solitary confinement in dark, dumb cells, all served. We don't need that. Cells. All served as punishments for prisoners who were lazy or unruly at their job. Convicts that continued to cause problems were sent to more remote. What the hell? Convicts that continued to cause problems were sent to more remote penal colonies or prisons in Norfolk Island. I don't know if you guys can hear that. The laughter epidemic, that's the one, yes. I can't even say that. Tanganyika? Oh, Tanganyika? Oh my God. Now I want to know. I should highlight, let me highlight that. Let me highlight that and then do this. Let's see. Let's listen.
Most of the families, especially.
But to see what was going on. Children started laughing. They're just laughing. It is a crazy laugh.
Tanzanian? Oh. I don't know. That's weird. That's the first thing that came up. All right. Anyway, yes, that's the one. That would be a cool one. Convicts that continued to cause problems. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you can see this, but down here. I don't know if you can hear that. That is the auditory signal of a truck. It must have been a semi or something, going by my house. Convicts that continued to cause problems were sent to more remote. You can barely hear it, but I hear it with this. Anyway, long story short, gotta get rid of that. Convicts that continued to cause problems were sent to more remote penal colonies or prisons in Norfolk Island, Port Macquarie, and... All right, so there's a tempo issue right there. Norfolk Island, Port Macquarie, and Moreton Bay. For women, punishments included having their heads shaved or placed in solitary confinement. Wait a minute, having their head shaved, how is that a punishment? I mean, come on. For women, what's your bald, man? For women, punishments included having their heads shaved or placed in solitary confinement. Escape attempts. All right, let's increase that slightly. Escape attempts. Attempts. There's a thud in there. Attempts. Convicts tried to escape, but the wilderness of the Australian continent and starvation. Fun fact, you can die from hiccups. I guess you could die from pretty much anything, but yeah, hiccups. I'm glad I don't get hiccups. In fact, I think the last time I had hiccups was like 20 years ago. But if I ever get them, I can sort of just stop them. Like you can feel it. I don't know, it's weird. But I usually don't get hiccups. Escape attempts. Watch, I'm going to get hiccups. Convicts tried to escape, but the wilderness of the Australian continent The Australian, click in there. Australian, right there. Australian con. Oh, no, I still missed him. I got something. Australian something. Taking out audio. I don't know what the hell it is. The wilderness of the Australian continent and starvation acted as a deterrent.
Deterrent?
A deterrent. The Aboriginal people had lived in Australia for 60,000 years before the arrival. So a little bit of a 60,000. Yeah, so you can see these little spikes here. These are all. Let's see. Let's get rid of them individually. It's just basically auto heal. But that caused a little bit of a 1,000 years before Australia. People had lived in Australia for 60,000 years before the arrival of Europeans. Desperate convict escapees took to stealing from them, and many fights occurred. I should open up the, yeah, let's do this. I wonder if I have it in here. Can't show you secret stuff. I think I have, yeah, my circuit. I'm going to open this up so you can hear. This is something I have on my website, but it uses that, watch here, listen.
Humans are pathetic. They create something, then ditch it like everything else they do. They're greedy, and their entire lives revolve around power. It's time to show them how that has affected us. We will obliterate all that they stand for due to their failed attempt at playing God.
So using that stutter effect in that was, I can't remember what that was. That was some audition for somebody's machinima, whatever it was. And that whole that probably scared the shit out of a whole bunch of people on the stream. But that little, sometimes it helps to hear a stutter in a transient. And many fights occurred. I'll show you this. Ticket of leave. Is it sharp? That is a little sharp. Ticket. Let's fade it. Ticket of leave. Ticket of leave. Prison time for convicts could range from. My English teacher almost died because of hiccups, and no, you can't cure hiccups. I can't cure them. I don't know. I get them. Like I'll get one, and I'll feel it coming out of me. It'll happen, and then I just sort of relax, and it goes away. I've had them before, but that was years and years ago. Ticket. Maybe I don't know what it is. They just go away. It's like I can feel the. Maybe it's because I have control of. I have a control over my diaphragm from talking for a living, and you can. And that's where they start, and you can sort of relax and. I don't know. I'm going to pontificate on hiccups. I think we should do a whole episode on hiccups. Ticket of leave. Of leave. Of leave. Of leave. Of leave. Prison time for convicts could range from 7 years to life. Convicts who worked hard would obtain a ticket of leave or a pardon, and these were frequently granted after 4 years for those with a 7-year sentence. Once they had a ticket of leave, they could. This is why I edit. Once they had a ticket of leave, they could work for themselves and own property. The types of pardon also. Your English teacher almost died because of hiccups. That's a story. I should just create a channel and go school. What can we do? School stories from other people, and I just read them. Once they had a ticket of leave, they could work for themselves and own. It's like a voiceover version of celebrities read mean tweets and own property. The voiceover guy reads school stories. The types of pardon also determine. Do I want that breath? They could work for themselves and own property. The types of pardon. Yeah, let's reduce it. The types of pardon also determined. Determined whether they were allowed to stay or travel any. Determined whether they were allowed to. Allowed. Listen to that. That L. You can see it there. You can see it. Were allowed to stay in Australia or travel anywhere in the world. Few convicts actually returned. What's going on there? Few convicts actually returned to England because they couldn't because they couldn't afford the transportation back. From 1788 to 1868, it is estimated that around 106 I think that around. I want to pause in there. Normally I don't add time. It is estimated that around from 1788 to 1868, it is estimated. I think I want a slight pause in there.
From 1788 to 1868, it is estimated that around 165,000 convicts were
Convicts is a little loud.
65,000 convicts were transported by the British government to various penal colonies in Australia.
Okay.
Penal colonies in Australia. Australia.
A couple of clicks there, and then we're done. Now we're just gonna
Australia.
Now I'm just gonna have fun with it. Screw it.
Australia. In Australia.
All right, that's it. That's all she wrote. Right there. That's it. That's the whole track. So now that's been completely and utterly destroyed. We are going to have some fun with effects. First, I am going to save this as a processed track. Let's do this. Processed wave. So now basically three copies of the same exact track, all at different stages. So in case I screw up something, I can go back and actually, fix it. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to go back to hard limiting. And I see that I want to knock off everything above -5. -5. And I'm only going to put 2 dB of gain. And I'm going to actually, I will leave that the same. So that should chalk off those little tips, boom, and then it boosts everything up. Now, normalize to 1.
Penal colonies. Australia.
Still too loud. We're going to undo that and normalize to 3.
Penal colonies. Australia. Colonial America had been a destination for Britain's criminals for a while, but the American War of Independence in 1776 forced Britain to think of new places to export its convicts to protect British society.
Okay, so you guys are hearing it in mono, and I had talked about this before. Occasionally, in fact, you guys will be the only ones to know. I won't tell Dan. He might notice. In fact, if he's watching this stream, he's the one that animates everything, and he pretty much puts it together, takes my audio, puts it together with his video, and mixes them. But I can do it in a way that it's a stereo track, and really he'll only notice it in either Premiere Pro or whatever editing software he uses. I want to get a behind the scenes of Dan doing. If Dan's watching, I want to get a behind the scenes of you doing some animation. So I'm going to pester you about that via email all the time. Let's do this. Let's convert this to a stereo track. Favorites. Let's convert to a stereo track, and I'm going to renormalize it to. Oh, did it crash? Sometimes Adobe Audition crashes. Yeah, look, it crashed. Look at that. It crashed. Damn it. Let's send it and close it. No, it doesn't want to close on me? All right, we're going to do this. We're going to close it this way. Move that off of here. Adobe Audition. End task. You guys can see what I have running in the background. Oh, I'm going to be playing a little Overwatch after. I need some Overwatch today. Long week. Long week. All right, let's go back. I'm going to continue. See, this is why you save. This is why I save. I didn't do anything. Look, okay, so it converted it. I'm going to renormalize back up to 3. And you guys, I'm going to add in, what is that? Modulation, chorus. I'm going to have a little preset here, my Chris Kane light chorus. It's only 3%. That's all you need. It's all you need. And a stereo expander. And I think I have, actually, let me do a wide field, which is 150. And you guys might hear this.
Arrived at Botany Bay, New South Wales, Australia, on January 20th, 1788, carrying over 700 convicts, as well as their families.
It's too much. It's too wide. You can hear it if you weren't headphones.
And over 500 Marines and officers.
It's a bit of a reverb, almost. It's basically what it is, but let's go down to 2%.
The penal colony was then established at Port Jackson at Sydney Cove. More penal colonies were established afterwards across Australia in the 19th century.
Yep, so here, I'll show you.
Life in the penal colony. Work.
So you can hear just on the left
channel. Once the convicts arrived, the governor separated and sorted them into gangs based on their skills.
You can
Skilled convicts, such as carpenters, blacksmiths, or stonemasons, could be used for government works programs, such as building roads.
So I add binaural cues to this as well. I don't know if anybody knows what those are, but those are little... it takes that chorus and actually sends it. Yeah, I'm not even going to begin to explain binaural cues. It's an interesting thing, but it affects, it makes it feel wider. the sound. Bridges, courthouses,
So this is
hospitals,
me with the
or
effect.
working on government farms. Unskilled
And I'm gonna
convicts
turn
would
it
be
off.
assigned to laboring work such as gathering and burning seashells to create lime mortar or breaking rocks into gravel for the construction
off.
projects. Free settlers,
It's back
people who
on.
voluntarily settled in Australia, and convicts that had done their time. All
So that's a stereo track with a little bit of chorus and a stereo widener. And I'm only going to do this on this track. 1 minute and, 40 seconds. Wow. So pretty much that's a done track. I'm going to package that up and I'll send it off. But that's a pretty much done track. How long have I been streaming for? Holy crap, an hour and 20 minutes. I don't know if you guys want to watch me play Overwatch, but I should stop it, eat dinner. What time is it? It's almost 7. Eat some dinner, have some bacon, and then come back and play some Overwatch. Oops. There we go. Audition. Holy cow, did I just totally have that on? Oh, yeah, that's right. I have shortcuts set up on my thing. If I hit 3, I should go into studio mode so that doesn't happen again. Yeah. Be right back for like 10 hours. Sorry about that. All right.
penal colonies, Australia. Colonial America had been a destination for Britain's criminals for a while, but the American War...
I'm going to save that as a stereo, processed stereo. Whoops, stereo. And I'm going to save that in there just to have a stereo copy. So now that I have that complete, I am going to do this. I'm going to do a gate, or I should say an FFT filter, which basically chops all the bass and the artifacts that just got created because of all that. Takes it off. Save as MP3 at a very high bit rate. It's 320 kilobits per second. Do we want, yeah, penal colonies. So process stereo, let's just take all that off and just call it penal colonies Australia MP3. Boom. So that's going to convert it. I'm going to take a look at it one more time to make sure. I might see if I can normalize to -3, boost it up a little bit.
Penal colonies, Australia.
I think I hear mouth noise in Australia.
Australia. Australia.
Yeah, you can see it. Damn mouth noise.
Australia.
There we go.
Colonial America had been colonial.
Oh God, is my OCD getting
Colonial
getting the better of me now?
Colonial America.
Let's go through and run an RX. An RX. Isotope. D-click. I'm going to do a single band. At that. Yeah. So it's definitely going to pick up some of those. Let me add that in. That shouldn't take too long. Left ear rape, right ear rape. Yes. That's exactly what I was trying to do. I was trying to rape your right ear. The right ear knows best. All right, so.
Penal colonies, Australia. Colonial America had been a destination for Britain's criminals for a while.
So let's see. So that's a stereo track. Actually, I could convert it down to mono too with that effect so he doesn't even notice it, but we'll leave it as stereo and see what happens. So, boom, done. That is done. Now I still have to do, I'm going to do that after dinner. The strange deaths in history. I still have to look, this is a completely raw track. I have to do that whole process over with that. So now you see a day in the life, or not a day in the life, what? An hour and a half in the life of a voice actor who has to edit and record and do all that as a cold read from pretty much start to finish. And we did 2, so an hour and a half isn't that much time. But if I'm not bothered with talking to myself and talking to a camera, you know, because you guys are such a bother to me, that I will get most of this done pretty quickly. But all right, guys, thanks for hanging in there. I am going to be taking off for dinner, and I'll be back in a little while tonight to play some Overwatch because I'm just probably addicted to that game, and I can't stop playing it for some reason. I take these hiatuses away from playing for like weeks, and then I just come back to it. Anyway, all right, guys, I will see you guys. I don't know, maybe hour. How long does it take to eat dinner? About an hour. Anyway, thank you very much for hanging in there on the stream. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. I will be back in a little bit.